want to introduce you guys to some of you, a really, really good friend of mine. Someone I count as a mentor, someone I've had some fantastic conversations with. One of the relatively few people in the world who isn't afraid to push back and tell me I'm wrong and really sincerely invite me to reconsider things and think about things in a different way.
I think you're wrong about that.
What's that?
I said, I think you're wrong about that.
But before I finish introducing Don, I want you all to give a special, incredibly warm Celebrate Recovery welcome to his mom, Naomi, who is 99 years old. And back here celebrating with us tonight. Yeah, so that's really all I've got to say. It's a phenomenal testimony. I got a preview of it, and I think there's something here for everybody tonight. Don?
I hope so. Hi. I'm really humbled to be here. And did Tyler make it? Are you here, Tyler? No? Oh, dang. Okay. But quite a few people that came out to support me. I really appreciate it. Thank you all. It's awesome, including my mother. 99 years old. She only goes out to the doctors, but she came here tonight. Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome. So the slides? Yeah, cool. So in the traditional CR, sorry, it's really hard to see without going like this. And my mom told me, don't wear that shirt, they can see your underarms. So now I'm really self-conscious while I'm standing here. But in the traditional way of introducing, I am an outrageously blessed, grateful truster in the great mystery. And I am a gambling addict, and my name is Don. So the reference to great mystery, you'll find out in a minute what that's about. But this is my testimony, and it's Adventures on a Journey. And I'm going to model it and pattern it after what's called the hero's journey. Some of you may know this. It was introduced by a fellow named Joseph Campbell, who was the mentor to George Lucas. And Joseph Campbell spent, I think, about 10 years studying all the world's religions and all the world's cultures and stories and histories and their narratives. He termed those things myths. And George Lucas used that to write Star Wars. So the term myth doesn't mean fiction or something fake or false or untrue. Myth is kind of like parables. It's a story with a powerful, valuable truth to tell. So it's a way, what Joseph Campbell came to was that these narratives, these myths, were, every culture had them, all through history. And because they were a way to keep and to pass on to future generations, to their children, the most important meanings, values, and purposes that the group or the culture had learned. Oops, there's no volume.
To the realm of extraordinary happenings, learns something about themselves, and returns with this knowledge to the benefit of their society. In Campbell's words, a hero ventures forth from the world of common day into a region of supernatural wonder. Fabulous forces are there encountered, and a decisive victory is won. The hero comes back from this mysterious adventure with the power to bestow boons on his fellow man. Campbell was a great believer in the symbolic power of circles. As such, this narrative arc was rendered in the form of a circle, with one half resting in the ordinary world and the other in the fantastic world. This three-act structure fits the standard format found in most Hollywood films, as well as most myths across all world cultures and religions, a fact that was not lost on George Lucas.
When I did Star Wars, I consciously set about to recreate the classic mythological motifs. I put the Force into the movies in order to try to awaken a certain kind of spirituality. I see Star Wars as taking all of the issues that religion represents and trying to distill them down into a more easily accessible construct that people can grab onto to accept the fact that there is a greater mystery out there.
So in this presentation, I want to continue using his term, the greater mystery, to refer to what CR and AA refer to as a person's higher power. And I'm going to use the 3-act model, the call to adventure, crossing that threshold into the road of trials that leads to transformation and the return back to the ordinary world. So this is Donnie's story. When I was young, people called me Donnie. Don't do it now, please. But I was just an ordinary kid, and maybe a little bit like a curious maverick. And I had a call to adventure, at least in terms of this context. I had a call to adventure probably when I was around 10 or 11, I think. And what happened was I would hitchhike to the beach, because we were about 15 miles from the beach where I grew up in Fullerton, California. And I would hitchhike to the beach. And one morning I hitchhiked really, really early, and really early. And I got to the beach and there was nobody there. There was no lifeguards, there was no people, nobody was there, and all to myself. And so I saw a big set coming in, so I ran into the water. Little did I know that there were actually rip currents and undertows at that time. And so the first wave that hit me radically tumbled me every which way, and I didn't know which way was up, and I swam, and I hit the bottom, and I turned around, I put my feet down, and I pushed up with all my might, and I went about 6 inches off the ground, off the seafloor, and I got sucked back in, and I was underwater, and I couldn't breathe, and I wasn't prepared for that, and I just was struggling, and I couldn't get up, and I was thinking, I'm gonna die. And then I got up, and I took a breath, but only quick enough that I could get a little bit of air and a bunch of salt water, and then another wave hit me and I went under again. And this just kept happening over and over until I literally gave up and said, that's it, my life's over. 10 years old, my life's over. So I prayed, dear God, I didn't use the word greater mystery, I didn't know it then. Dear God, if you save me, I will dedicate my life to you. But then I actually didn't die. I ended up on the shore, and I thought, thank you. But you know how it goes. Very shortly after, I kind of forgot about it, and 2 weeks later, I never thought about it again. And when I did think about it, I said, oh, come on. I don't even know if there really is a God. And maybe that was just coincidence. And I'm just a kid. It's too early for me to do this. What do I know? So this is what's called in the hero's journey is called the call is refused. I refused the call. But a few years later, I had an event that pushed me across that threshold. Basically what happens is at about the age of 13, I started experimenting with drinking and drugs. And I had a very bad drug experience that pushed me into a place where I don't know how else to explain it except like having a nervous breakdown or something. I don't know. The thing that was about it was, and I'm sure some of you can relate to this, I just had fear, enormous, saturating fear of my whole being. And I couldn't escape it, and it was so horrible. I was so desperate. I called my friend who had given me the drugs, and I said, I can't get out of this. I feel like I'm still high, and I don't know what to do. And he said, oh, let me call my dealer. He called his dealer. He called me back. Okay, we got an answer for you. You have to shoot up some heroin, and then you'll be fine. And I thought, well, maybe not. So instead of that, I was so desperate, I asked my mother to take me to church. I don't know if she remembers that, but she was pretty shocked because I would never have asked to go to church. That was crazy. I didn't like church, but I was desperate, and so we went to church that night on a Sunday night. It wasn't even Sunday morning. It's Sunday night. I went to church, and I sat up in the balcony of this little church. It was Assemblies of God Church. And I was alone in the balcony. It wasn't a large church, so there was probably, I don't know, it was probably like 20 people in the whole church down below, and I was there. And there I was again in desperate need, but I was still thinking the same thoughts. I'm too young. I can't do this. What am I doing? I'm too young. And right then I looked up, and the pastor's pointed up at me and he said, "And if you think you're too young," and I went, "Oh, okay, that's it. That's it. I surrender, that's it." So I went down to the altar and I prayed and I asked Jesus into my heart. I was led through the prayer and I became a born-again Christian. And when I became a born-again Christian, I wasn't like a church-going born-again Christian. I was like all in, that's it, it's over, I'm all in Christian. I'm serving God, that's it. And the one thing that I wanted more than anything, and I prayed to God for this, and I made this commitment to God, and I said, I'm supposed to use the term, the greater mystery, and I said, if you show me the truth, I will walk in it, no matter the cost, and I meant that. So I pretty much immediately joined a group. They were called the Lord Led. We played at my high school and people thought it was like Led Zeppelin or something. So they were pretty surprised when they came and saw us. But so we had this group and we became pretty popular. We ended up in my high school years in 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. I kept a record. We played 5 nights a week on average through my entire high school time. This group and the other people that I was associated with, we also did Bible studies and we did outreaches and we did all kinds of stuff. And we played with some pretty famous people in the gospel scene at the time. Some of you older people might recognize Andre Crouch. He was at one time one of the highest level gospel singers. Anyway, we played with Andre, and anyway, it was pretty exciting times. So I'll just go back a sec. So that was the return into the ordinary world, but it was a new ordinary world, and I was a new person. So it's like up a level. So I had another call to adventure. After the Lord Led ended and high school ended, I felt that I was right where the greater mystery wanted me to be. I was a lay person helping people at work and at church and other areas, and I just really felt perfectly there, and I felt a call to stay there. But then I was offered a ministerial position. So here's the context of that. For 3 years that I was in the Lord Led, we were kind of behind the scenes, right? We got to hang out with the ministers and the evangelists and the televangelists and the singers and all the whole thing. And I saw things that I felt, I sensed that it hurt the heart of God. But I thought, this is what I thought, I can change it. I can change that. I can change this institution, these people, this thing, and I can be God's vessel for growth and transformation. And so I chose, against my intuition, to take that position. And I became a California licensed minister with the Assemblies of God Church. And that's me leading the choir at my church. Okay, but I would still say, going back here, where is it? I would still say that choice, I think, was another refusal to the call. Oh, I'm going the wrong way, sorry. This is pretty complicated, there's 2 buttons on it. Okay, so now I'm lost. Where am I? Okay, there we are. So in terms of doing this, I'm the type of person that jumps fully in. I commit and I go for it. But I was still struggled because I saw in the ministry, through the ministry, I saw again things that I thought just weren't right. I saw some of the leaders whose hearts seemed fully in the material kingdom. I just want to give a shout out to Dan. This man's heart is in the kingdom of God. He's an amazing person, I can tell you. And I'm so proud and honored to be associated with real people like that, real people of God. Anyway, but at the time here, I saw people whose hearts didn't seem to be there, that I had struggled with the idea of church as a business. I struggled with the idea of religion as a consumer product. I struggled with the arrogance of people who are absolutely sure they're right and everybody else is wrong, and judgments. The ideas of, that tattooing and piercing is sin, and you can't wear certain clothes, and you can't listen to certain, all this kind of stuff. You get the picture. So, but I stuck in it, and I went with it, and there I was. And then I had another call to adventure. And this one was an awakening call. I was leading worship. I still just totally remember this day. I was leading worship, and my hands were outstretched and my eyes were closed. And I was singing, and I was saying the right things, and I had all the right facial expressions, and I had all the right movements. And then I had this awareness that I was thinking about the show that I had been watching yesterday and where I was going to go for lunch. And a scripture came into my brain, having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. And I would, oh. So instead of changing the church, it seemed to me that I had been changed. It had changed me. So that was the point I crossed the threshold into another adventure. I resigned the ministry. I left everything behind and started from scratch because I had committed that I would follow the truth, whatever it was, and no matter the cost. And I felt like that I had lost the truth. I had lost the true connection. So I drove to Canada with nothing but some clothes, 5 books, and my guitars. And I had no money and no job, but I found a dingy apartment by the studio that I had hoped to get hired at. I found my first girlfriend because up until this point, I had been celibate because I had given my entire life to God. And that included everything. I did not expect to ever be married or have a relationship or anything. No, my life was God's. I found studio work. I found music friends. But I still, I felt misled by church and religion. And I ended up rejecting religion, and I re-examined everything that I had been told and taught, and I decided I would start over from scratch. I asked, how can I know anything? How will I know anything? But here's an important point that I think is unique to my story, because I know so many people that have been hurt by religion, and they turn their back on religion, but they also turn their back on the greater mystery and everything that's associated. I didn't do that. I didn't turn my back on the greater mystery. Just the opposite. My relationship was the one thing I kept. And once again, I asked the great mystery to show me the truth no matter the cost. So sitting on the floor in my empty apartment, I began questioning everything, every claim, every idea that I'd been told. And I asked what assumptions would I have to hold in order to hold that position or that view. I had to find out, I had to discover for myself and choose for myself what I believe, what God has shown me is true, not just accept what I've been told. So I gave up all assumptions of knowing. And this, again, I think is unique, but maybe there's some people here that can relate to this. So, for instance, I gave up all assumptions about what I thought I knew about the great mystery, about the Bible, God, sin, religion, about human identity, who and what we are, the meaning of life and existence, purpose, morals, what is knowable, what is not knowable. And I tried everything out for myself. There was no boundaries. I didn't know what was true or not true or right or wrong. So I tried everything. I ate sushi. Yikes. I actually ended up loving it, but before that I didn't try it. I danced, I drank, I traveled quite a few places. I did business. I had 4 different companies. I had 4 different professional careers. I was a music producer. I met Paul McCartney, for some of you might know who that is. I experienced marriage and parenthood. I have a child, 1 child. I explored education. I got 5 degrees, including a PhD. I partied. I had sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I explored non-Western religions and ideas, etc., etc. But I tried these things out not for myself, not as an escape, not in rebellion against the great mystery, not in a hedonistic pursuit of pleasure, not for ego. As always, as curious person, and the exploration of truth in unison with the great mystery, based on my commitment to show me the truth no matter what the cost. That's how I framed what I was doing. And I returned to a new ordinary world, transformed again, a new dawn. In George Lucas's words, I found my place as an individual and as part of the whole. But I returned more authentic and more aware and informed and empowered and more connected to the great mystery. Through it all, I can say the greatest experience of all of my life has been this deeper relationship, connection, and oneness with the great mystery. And that's how I can say, as I said at the beginning, I am an outrageously blessed, grateful truster in the great mystery. So some of the new things I brought back, just quickly go through some of them. I came back with a new perspective on, by the way, nothing that I gained from this, one of the things that I discovered was I'm never going to be so arrogant as to think I know everything, or anything for that matter. I'm going to do my best to understand, and I'm going to do my best to be true to that truth to the level of truth I know. But I'm certainly not going to be arrogant about it. I'm better than you. I know the truth and you don't know it. I never was like that. But so I decided to experiment with the things that I felt were being shown to me as true. And so these are some of them, like pain. Pain's inevitable in life. We have pain. But suffering is optional and mostly unnecessary. Most of my unnecessary suffering came from not accepting what is, the facts, because of my stories about what I thought should be. I chose a life mission at this time. My mission was to reduce unnecessary suffering. I fully embraced 100% accountability. I chose to trust and live in gratitude as a way of being, not in the sense of I'm going to be grateful for everything, like individually something happens, because when you do that, it's like, well, I'm going to be grateful because of this good thing happened, but I'm not grateful because this bad thing happened. Not that. I'm talking, I want to live in a state of gratefulness, and I chose to do that. I chose the perspective, and still to this day, that no matter what occurs to me, because I am connected to the great mystery, I'm in the, I don't know what words to use, I'm in the arms of that great mystery. Because of that, my life is perfect. And I say that to people. They say, how are you? How's it going? And I say, I just did it today at the doctor's office. How are you? And I said, my life is perfect. And people laugh. Some people laugh out loud. Oh, yeah, But I actually mean it. And Dan actually told me, he said, that's actually a Christian theological position. It's called holy indifference. I didn't know that. So in terms of Don's journey here, seeing life as a hero's journey provides a vantage point to accept all events as adventures on the path to our best selves in alignment with the great mystery. The process of growth, development, transformation is continuous. We keep going through it. And the cool thing, though, is that each time the road is traveled with more awareness, more ability, more knowledge, more freedom, and therefore less suffering. I'm big on less suffering. Like I said, my mission that I've chosen for myself is to reduce unnecessary suffering. So as I learned to distinguish between what is, facts and such, and my stories, I began to say, given these facts, what decisions and actions will most likely lead me to what I value most? And those better decisions then resulted in less pain and suffering. So in this sense, suffering was not only optional through my perspective, but it was also avoidable through better aligned decisions. And then came a test. So at a certain point in my life, I faced some pretty serious things. My family. So my wife left me. I had some friends whose, when their wife left them, it destroyed them. They couldn't carry on. She left me, and my spouse and my child both suffered tremendously from a lifetime of mental illness with disorders, anxiety disorders and OCD and things like that, which led them to addiction. They were both in addiction themselves, and there was just a lot of suffering there, and that was pretty devastating. But not only that, but I had a heart attack, and I was in the hospital, and I had to have an operation. It was a week in the hospital and had to have an operation. And my business partners here, we faced together bankruptcy. We had all these bills and there was no money. And I was one of the leaders, and I would be calling our suppliers and saying, no, don't repossess our desks. Please give us another week. We'll get you some, We were facing bankruptcy. The problem with that was my job and my profession were wrapped up in that. If we lost it, I would be out of a job and out of a... But worse than that, I had mortgaged everything that I had, my house included, in order to buy shares in the company so that I would be an owner. And if it went under, I would lose everything. I would literally have no money, no job, no family, no house, no nothing. And I remember this day so specifically. I was in Vancouver, British Columbia, and I remember the street. I remember how I was walking like diagonally on the street, and I remember thinking and talking to the Great Mystery, and I said, hey, this is our opportunity to test all this stuff we're learning. And I can report to you now with gratitude that I didn't suffer or worry during that time. The principles that I had acquired worked, and through it all, I could sincerely and honestly still say, my life is perfect. Thank you. So I thought about, okay, some people don't get that, right? So I said, well, how is your life perfect? Why? What happened? And I think that this is just my theory. My theory is, I think the core reason is that I think about the words of Jesus. He talked about where your heart is, there will your treasures be. And since my very first transformation back when I was 13 or 14, since that time, I can tell you that my heart's investments, first and foremost, has been in the Great Mystery. It's never been in this world anymore. And you can't touch that. So, my newest journey is CR. When I crossed the doorway right there into CR, I also crossed into a new journey. My story was, when I crossed, what am I doing here? I don't belong here. I'm not struggling with addiction. I've had no trauma to speak of. And the answer I got back from the Great Mystery was, hey, this journey is about expanding your ability to love. I have children here that can benefit from your unique journeys. I don't know how many of you there are here, but maybe at least one. Okay. So I joined the First Step study, and I decided I would explore gambling because I was gambling a lot. And I wanted to see if I had an addiction, and I wanted to see if I wanted to stop, or I should stop. And it turned out that at the end of that first step study, I decided I don't need to stop. I don't want to stop. It's fine. In fact, I don't really think I'm even addicted. So then in January, I went into a second step study, the one I'm currently in. And over that period of time, I decided, you know what? I actually am addicted. There are things I can't stop. I just keep doing it, even when I tried to stop. And I decided that I didn't want to stop. One of the hard things about addiction is I didn't want to stop. How can I stop something I don't want to stop? So I asked the great mystery, please remove my desire. I don't know what else to do. And it's now next week, in 5 days, it'll be 5 months since I've had a desire to gamble. So now I just want to talk briefly about everyone's journey. Everyone here, everyone in the world, all through history, we've all gone through these journeys. And I recalled a good friend's words to me once. He said, everyone's fighting battles you can't see. And if you look closely, you'll find a hero in every story. And so I'm pretty sure that everyone here has fights, internal battles that you're battling that only you know. And you likely would feel alone in that. But I'm telling you, from my experience, the Great Mystery knows and invites you to co-author a hero's journey where you can return with the help that only you can bring because only you have traveled this unique hero's journey. In George Lucas's words, have your own hero's journey, find your individuality, find your place in the world, but you're part of a whole and you must be part of the community above yourself. And I think the CR is a great community, by the way. I would recommend it.
The worst word is good for us in that sense. I mean, yes.
They try to show us our place. Myths help you to have your own hero's journey, find your individuality, find your place in the world, but hopefully remind you that you're part of a whole and that you must also be part of the community and think of the welfare of the community above the welfare of yourself. And it's not a grand thing. Everybody has the choice of being a hero or not being a hero every day of their lives. And you can either help somebody, you can be compassionate toward people, or you can treat some people with dignity, or not. You know, you don't have to get into a giant laser sword fight and blow up 3 spaceships to become a hero. I mean, it's a very small thing that happens every day of your life.
In my opinion, you are all heroes. We are all heroes in God's narrative. Thanks for letting me share.